Hey, it's Friday. I don't know about y'all, but I am about that Punnet Square life. If you aren't about that life yet, you're going to be by the end of the day. You're going to be doing Punnet Squares in your sleep. I promise you. So let's get into it. Remember Punnet Squares, what's the purpose of them? We are going to go through them to calculate or predict the possibility of the offspring of two parents having certain genotypes. So here we have our two parents. This is our father. His genotype is capital F, capital F. We remember that the capital letters means that it is a dominant trait. So in this case, we're looking at straight versus curly hair. In this case, the dominant allele is for straight hair. So since he has two capital Fs, he has straight hair. If we look over here, we have our mother. She has a lowercase f and a lowercase f. We remember that lowercase means recessive, so it's only going to show up if that dominant allele isn't there, and in this case, she doesn't have any. So we're going to see that recessive trait in the phenotype, or in this case, curly hair. Okay, so these two people are going to cross. They're going to make an offspring, and we're going to predict what possible genotypes and phenotypes that offspring is going to have. So first, we need to actually draw our Punnet square. We remember that it just looks like a big window. We make our square, one line down, one line across. Easy. So first, we remember that we have one parent at the top, one parent to the left. Nothing on the right, nothing on the bottom. That's just silly. That's not how you do it. So first, let's put our father first. If we have one allele is the capital F, so capital F there. And then the second allele is also a capital F, so we put a capital F there. You never put more than one allele over one box, just one allele at a time. Okay, so we did our father. Now let's move on to our mother. Our first allele is a lowercase f, so let's put a lowercase f. And our second allele is another lowercase f, so lowercase f. Okay, awesome. So our Punnet square is set up. It's ready for us to predict what the different genotypes could be. So we remember we're going to look up at the top of each square and see what is up there. In this case, we have a capital F coming from our father. So here's one allele from the father, and our second allele from the mother, in this case, is going to be a lowercase f. So we bring that one on over. I'm sorry if I keep moving. I'm trying to pick up markers and film at the same time. I need extra help. Okay, so that box is finished. Remember, we always put the dominant allele first. It's just proper. It looks better that way. We move on to the next box. This one is done. Box number 2, we look up to the sky. What do we have? A big F. Look over to the left. From our mother, we get a lowercase f. Easy peasy. Over here, down at this box, look up to the sky, we've got a big F from our father. Look to the right, we've got a, to the left, excuse me, we've got a lowercase f from the mother. Last box, look up to the sky, we've got an F. Do like Beyonce, move to the left, and we've got a lowercase f. Okay, so now that we have our Punnet square all filled out, it looks lovely, we can figure out the different probabilities of having different genotypes present in the offspring. So what I think is the easiest way to go about it is if you start in this first box, what genotype do we have here? We have a heterozygous genotype. So we have a capital F or a dominant with a lowercase or a recessive. So if we write off to the side here, that genotype, uppercase, lowercase. Let's count how many of those we have. We have 1, 2, this one's also heterozygous, 3, and 4. In this case, they all happen to be the same exact genotype. Kind of crazy. So we have out of 4 boxes, because remember there's 4 total, we have 4. So 4 out of 4, basic math, that is 100%. Okay, moving on. I wanted to give you an example of one that might not be as straightforward. So they might not always automatically assign a letter to a different allele. What do I mean by that? If you look at this example, again, we have both the parents laid out, we have the father and we have the mother, but it doesn't have those single letters like this first example did. So we have to figure out, well, what is their genotype? So here's how we're going to break it down. The father is heterozygous, so we know it's going to have 1 dominant, 1 recessive. The mother is homozygous recessive. So remember, homo means same. So we know that it's going to have 2 of the same recessive alleles. In this scenario, we're going to look at flower color. So dominant means that it's going to have a purple flower, and recessive means it's going to have a white flower. Whenever they don't assign a letter to an allele, you can pick whatever letter you want. So in this case, I feel like let's use the letter R. So if it's heterozygous, we know it's going to have a capital R and a lowercase r. If it is homozygous recessive, we know it's going to have 2 lowercase r's. So in this case, since it's heterozygous, it has that 1 dominant allele. We know the father is going to have a purple flower. In this case, since it's homozygous recessive, there's no dominant allele, so that recessive trait can shine. It can have its moment in the sun. We know it's going to have a white flower. Okay, so now that we have those alleles assigned, we can go through the Punnett square like we normally would. So let's draw that square, draw that window. I'm gonna go through this one a little bit quicker because I think we kind of got it down over there, all right? So parent number 1, we have capital R, lowercase r, so we could put capital R, lowercase r, check that off because it's finished. Parent number 2, we have 2 lowercase r's, so lowercase r and lowercase r. Check that off because it's finished. All right, starting in box number 1, we look up, we've got a big R, look to the left, lowercase r. Moving on, look up, we've got a lowercase r, look to the left, lowercase r. We've got an uppercase R up here, and to the left, we've got a lowercase r. Look up, lowercase r, look to the left, lowercase r. Ugh, isn't she gorgeous? Okay. Now let's look at the different probabilities of having the different genotypes. So starting in this first box here, what do we have? We have a heterozygous. We have big R, little r. How many out of 4, because there's only 4 boxes, have this genotype? We have 1, this one, nope, doesn't match. Oop, 2, this one's heterozygous, and this one doesn't match. So we have 2 out of 4, or 50%. Okay, so there's a 50% chance that we are heterozygous, or in this case, purple. Ugh. Hold on, that is not gonna cut it. Purple flower. Okay. Yikes, bad handwriting. All right, second genotype. We've done these ones, we can honestly just cross them off. We have homozygous recessive, so little r, little r. Let's write that down here. How many have that same genotype? Here is 1. Already used these 2, and this one also has 2 little r's. So that one is also going to be 2 out of 4, or 50%, having a white flower. Okay, so you can also write it, remember we talked yesterday, ratios can also be written with that colon, with the dot dot. So really our chances are 2 to 2. You have a 2 or 50% chance of having a purple flower and a 50% chance of having a white flower. Whew. All right, I think we've got the Punnett squares down. One last thing I want to remind you about yesterday, we are always going to assume that complete dominance when we're doing a Punnett square. That means if at least one of the dominant alleles is present, that's going to take over the recessive. It's going to be shown. Unless it says otherwise, that's what we're going to use. If they say it's incomplete dominance, that means that if you have the heterozygous, meaning that you have one dominant, one recessive allele present, the phenotype's going to be a mixture of the two. So in this case, if this is incomplete dominance and we're looking at flower color, if you have two capital P's, two dominant alleles, you're going to get red. If you have two lowercase p's or two recessive alleles, you'll get white. But if you have a combination of both, it's a mixture, it's in between. So it's like you take red and white and color it together and you're going to get pink. That is incomplete dominance. You can also have codominance, meaning that both the alleles are fully showing up in the phenotype if they're present. So if you look at this little bug here, let's say for stripes, if it has two capital or dominant alleles, it's going to have horizontal stripes or left to right. If it has two lowercase alleles, that means it's going to have vertical stripes or stripes going up and down. But if it's heterozygous, meaning it has a dominant and recessive, it's going to have both. So it's going to have vertical stripes going up and down and horizontal stripes going left to right. That's it. Hit me up if you have any questions at all, seriously.